I've made a video game. It's a turn-based stealth puzzle game that uses dice as a central mechanic, and it nearly ended me. Let's talk game design. So, Game Maker's Toolkit's GMTK Jam 2022 just happened this weekend, and on the subject of game jams, did I mention that the first ever Let's Talk Game Design, Let's Talk Game Jam is set for the 12th to the 21st of August? Jam page is in the description if you want to sign up, it'd be great to see you there. Anyway, I guess Mark is a bit more popular than I am. A bit, maybe. So there might be slightly more entries going into the GMTK Jam 2022, and I, somehow, am one of them. The theme was Roll of the Dice, which immediately summons the thought of turn-based tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons & Dragons, randomly generated roguelikes, you know, the usual. So I decided to do something completely the same. No, originally I wasn't going to do that. What I was going to do was a turn-based, dice-based 2D scrolling beat-em-up. The idea was that the numbers you rolled would give you an amount of whatever to spend every turn on movement and attacks. Then your enemies would have rolled their dice and the same thing would have happened, and I suppose I'd have made something vaguely like Yakuza Like a Dragon, and a little bit like a lesser known but very excellent indie game, Fights in Tight Spaces. Except where Fights in Tight Spaces uses cards and deck building as your major game loop mechanic, I'd have had dice rolls. And then it would have been basically the same thing, probably. You'd walk forward, smash stuff, punch dudes, you know, Streets of Rage but in a casino. Eventually it would have gone on to something so ingenious and brilliant that a bunch of terrible companies in mobile gaming would have offered me obscene amounts of money to turn it into a gacha game so that half a dozen rich people would spend literally thousands of pounds on randomly generated digital items. This horrible practice happens a lot, and any company that does it should be publicly shunned and made to suffer and pay, obviously. Anyway, that would have been great, wouldn't it? Really revolutionary, brilliant idea, changed the world, won the game jam, all of that. But then it stalled, and everything got really, really bad. Thing is, I'm using the 3D Object plugin in Construct 3 that I've been obsessed with lately, and one of the things I haven't figured out properly yet is how to queue up multiple animations. I know roughly how it works, but I can't reliably make it transition from one to the other, which led to these horrible scenes where everything was just glitchy, janky, busted and wrong. That, I think you can all agree, would not have won the game jam, changed the world and made me rich and famous. Boo! It was here that I ran into the obstacle that teaches us all a valuable lesson, because the jam ran from Friday night at 6 PM local time to Sunday night at 8 PM local time. I, as you might know, am currently going through some terrible, tedious life events that I wish would end. As a result, I don't have much of a weekend to dedicate to a game jam. But I put my best foot forward on Friday night, got the idea down and some basic prototype stuff, and it was all going really, really well, until I hit that brick wall of the animations just not working properly. And that was at 3:30 AM on Saturday morning. I think you can see where I'm going with this. I spent all of Saturday dealing with the aforementioned terrible, tedious life events that I wish would end, and if I'm being honest, I'd given up on the jam entirely. I'd told myself it just wasn't going to happen, and maybe with the way my life is now, game jams spread over just a weekend are beyond me and not something I can do anymore. Heck, that's why my own game jam, the Let's Talk Game Design Let's Talk Game Jam, which you should go and sign up for, is spread over 9 days, including 2 weekends. It's done like that specifically for people like me who have too much normal boring life stuff happening to put out anything significant in just 48 hours. But then I ran into the main lesson that I want to pass on to you now. Teachable moment. If something doesn't work, and you haven't got the time to figure it out, then get rid of it. We all know I'm a genius, right? That's why you're here, after all, because of my brilliance, genius, and golden god-like status. Please like and subscribe. Did you know that I can't control that genius? That sometimes, in fact a lot of the time, it just pops up and smacks me in the face at 2 AM when I'm trying to sleep? That's what happened here. 2 AM on Sunday morning, I realised I should just get rid of the enemies altogether. Now, believe it or not, you can extrapolate this brilliant revelation from my tiny weekend game jam game to your multi-year-long main project you've been working on since 2018. If you're stuck on the path to finishing, remove your obstacles. To be real with you, the amount at which I was failing to finish something for this jam was playing heavily on my mind. Like I said, I've had a lot of terrible, tedious life events that I wish would end going on, and on top of that, the abject failure of not being able to make and finish a game anymore after such a long history of just finishing stuff regularly was bringing me down pretty hard. It was imperative for my own sanity and I think mental health that I finished something for this. So when I had that eureka moment as to how I could get over that obstacle, it took a lot of pressure off my shoulders and I felt that familiar rush of productivity and accomplishment. And that led us to this. Automated, non-animated obstacles that behave perfectly simply on their own, but when you place them together with the dice movement system I'd already come up with, start to build into something deceptively complex. The idea now is that you're playing a puzzle game, one where your positioning on the stage is incredibly important because after every turn, those security systems will toggle whether they're on or not, and where you're standing at the end of your turn will determine whether or not they catch you. The problem with a lot of puzzle games is that once you've solved them once, that's it. They're done forever, and it's hard for you to get a challenge out of that puzzle game again. It's only in things like Tetris, Puyo Puyo, or Kirby Star Stacker that you get a refreshed and original challenge every time you play. What I'd managed to do with this system was build that elusive second type of puzzle game, one that will always be different every time you play it, because the steps of movement you have at your disposal will always be randomised based on the roll of the dice. It has the potential to be something incredibly clever if I ever decide to carry on with it. I talk about the potential because, to bring you back to the story of this game's development, I pulled this whole thing together in about 6 hours on Sunday. It has only 6 levels, 3 mechanic obstacle types, very generic level layouts, and music I borrowed from YouTube. It's a prototype basically, but that idea at the core is, I think, incredibly clever, and I wish I'd had it on Friday night instead. Having said all that, as bare bones as it is, there's still room in here for a little bit of genius game design that I think Mark of GMTK especially would appreciate. On the first level, introducing you to the mechanics and main gameplay loop, a couple of things happen. First of all, you can't reach the laser within your first turn, it's too far away. What this means is there's no way for you to progress without seeing how that laser works, which is a holistic way of introducing a brief and obvious tutorial, rather than putting a bunch of text on the screen. But there's something even more ingenious than that. A dice has 6 sides, right? So you can roll the numbers 1 to 6. Except on that first level, I put in a quick little event in the background to make it so that you can't roll less than a 3. I did this because I wanted the player's first impression of the game to be full of momentum and accomplishment, and the off chance that they kept just rolling 1s in a row would really kill that hot start that I was going for. See, even in this quickly assembled, slightly janky last minute prototype, there's some incredibly innovative gameplay mechanics and genius bits of background game design. What this means is obviously I'm going to win the jam, change the world, be rich and famous, and hailed as a golden god. Alright, probably not, but honestly, finishing the thing at all is far more important to me than wherever this ends up ranking. Hopefully it gets judged by people who can appreciate potential and ingenuity in game design, but if it ends up in front of people who just like polish, then I'm doomed. But that's okay. Truth is, I've already won. I finished the thing. And now you also know how. If there's something stopping you, an obstacle in your way that you're stuck on, you can't get around, then consider just getting rid of it. Take a few steps back and reconsider whether you really need the thing you're stuck on. You might surprise yourself. And then while you're doing that, like this video if you liked this video, and subscribe for more videos like the video you just liked, and I will see you the next time I'm thinking, hey, let's talk game design.